All right. Buenos dias.
Because you're on the far.
We need a lot more energy. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
All right, it's officially hump day, Wednesday, ad week. I hope everyone's having a good ad week. Let's welcome onto the stage our awesome panel. Let's bring Mark Howard, Chief Revenue Officer of Forbes, Saba Ashraf, CEO of Super Union, and Jason Wagenheim, Chief Revenue Officer of Bustle Media Group.
Shalom.
All right, so this is going to be the panel that does not waste your time because lots of folks in this industry love to hear themselves talk. And sometimes at Advertising Week, we just talk to ourselves.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Will Smith is down the street, though, I heard. So I can't believe these guys are here.
Well, because Saba's much more interesting than Will Smith.
That is true.
You haven't seen her do the In Your Feelings
No.
dance. But the reality is we are at a really interesting moment in time when you have all the issues with walled gardens, with GDPR, with kind of all the challenges that marketers are actually really concerned about not truly having access to first-party data. And we kind of overlooked publishers in this whole mix. And I'm a big believer that publishers are the ones that power the internet. And so, I'd love to actually open up, with you, Saba. You've actually had, a really, kind of storied career working at some of the, most creative, innovative agencies. Specifically, you worked for a long time at Frog Design and IDEO, and now you're the CEO of Super Union. And you've worked so closely with marketers, and you are, a client yourself. How do you kind of view this ecosystem of where do publishers kind of fit into your mix? How do marketers view publishers today?
So one of the consistent things about all the places that I worked at before is it's human-centered design. So it's understanding what people need, what people want, what they would dream of and be delighted by. And so I'd say one of the consistent things to look at consists in the fact that it's really the publisher of the future is the greatest host the world has ever seen. And thinking about that. And so marrying it with understanding the environment of which you are playing that host, the context of it, as well as also thinking about it as a little bit as almost the perfect diet of like a food pyramid of what are all the pieces that would create this perfect scenario to deliver you what you need and when you need. So those are some ways in which I would think about it. It's my dream state. As a woman
I love
in
the food pyramid.
I actually have to riff on that just for a second. I love food. You know me. Where is the food? That's like a great analogy because what we talk about at Bustle is the importance of just executing at every stage, pre-sale, during a campaign, optimizing, and then post-sale, like the after. And we actually had the head of a large restaurant group come and talk to our account management team about like the best customer service in the world looks like, and we related to the restaurant experience, so to the food thing.
This was unplanned.
It's like, totally. But like you talk about data and putting that in the mix. Imagine if you can go to a restaurant and everything was just perfect and laid out for you exactly like what you wanted. The food was cooked to the right temperature, the pacing of the meal was on point, the ambiance, the table you got, the service was just custom tailored for you, and the data and insights gave you that. You would go back to that restaurant over and over and over again. So the better that we can execute, the better that we can host or serve that meal, in the form of a campaign, the more likely we're going to be to get renewals along the way, which is what we're in the business of.
But this is again the power of the publisher. You hit on something which is like I think so powerful. You're talking about curating this experience. Mark, you just flew in from Boston, and I think you had a little event.
We did. We just finished our 30 under 30 summit. By show of hands, has anybody here heard of the Forbes 30 under 30? Wow.
That's like everyone
That's
for
everybody.
the live stream audience.
Is anybody here on that list? No, me neither.
All over 30, my friend.
Yeah. Anyway, we just got back from that summit. It's a 3-day event. It was 9,000 people. Some of you may have actually seen that Senator Flake was there on Monday speaking to the crowd, which was extremely powerful. But it's all about the community and building that community. And we've got a franchise that's critical for us, that was important as we are now a 101-year-old brand, to really identify with the next generation of business leaders and the people changing the world, which is what our brand stands for and inspires people to do. And that summit is really the tip of the pyramid for us in terms of being able to bring them all together. But it also is a launch pad for everything else that we're able to do. And it's just one of the communities that we serve. And it's certainly a model for how we think about all the other communities and opportunities that we have. And it's a great gateway for us to be able to work with brands to be able to get them access in really genuine and valuable way to be a part of it. And it extends in the live environment, it extends digitally, in some instances across the print product. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity that we see in terms of not only being able to identify audiences and segments and being able to apply all this data so that we better understand their needs, but then also to really develop a sense of community that really changes the dynamics of what it means to be a publisher and what that relationship is for those people with us.
But you're actually providing deep experiences. I mean, literally, if you go onto LinkedIn, people badge themselves with the Forbes 30 under 30.
Almost everybody who's on the list, besides the company that they founded or that they work for, usually the very next thing in their LinkedIn is the year that they made the Forbes 30 under 30.
Amazing.
It is a tremendous currency that they operate with. We have hundreds of stories at this point about people who weren't able to have access to venture capitalists, or we're talking about very, very small Series A rounds that then once they got on the list, they were able to go raise significantly amount more money, the business partnerships that they've been able to form with each other. And then quite frankly, what's really most impressive is just the networking. When you go to that conference, I'm guilty of this. I'll be at this conference. I'll probably be on my phone in between sessions. I'll do emails, probably too much head down. At that conference, those young people, they are amazing.
Did you just say young people?
Well, I'm not.
Did you really just say young people?
I'm
Oh,
not under 30 anymore.
those youngins.
Yeah, they are networking. That's what they're there to do. And they walk away. We actually had a really cool thing. If anybody's in the live business, we had this little click tab on your lanyard, on your name badge. And you would click it, and when both of them were blinking green, you had both of the contacts added to each other's app. And so everybody walked around and they were able to click. You didn't have to do the cards. You didn't have to do anything else. It literally was, 2 seconds click. And then the whole thing was just about how many people could you meet. And then obviously for them and everybody, it's the follow-up and the opportunity to really build that powerful network and the opportunity to do it in our environment. And so, it's a real source of pride for us. It's certainly transformed that franchise, has transformed our brand and our relevance. But it's also become a real model for us of how we think about other communities that we serve as well.
So you hit the nail on the head with the word that I'm most passionate about. I'm passionate about brands, right? And I almost feel like Advertising Week is a misnomer. Like no one cares about advertising, right? But people care deeply about brands. And Saba, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what is Super Union, and given that you've worked with so many brands, like what is your perspective on a brand today?
So Super Union, first of all, is a WPP brand consulting group. So at the beginning of this year, 5 different brand agencies within WPP merged. So if the name is new for you, it's because it's new. We have 750 people around the world. We're in 18 countries. We have 23 offices. And so when we think about brands and the type of work that we do, we're always looking at multiple audiences. So when you see the work that we do, we also understand that we're looking at the customers, we're looking at the employees. Employer brands are incredibly important. In addition to that, we're looking at the regulatory environments and the relationships they have there. They're also looking at the relationships that people have with the financial communities and access to capital specifically, and then corporate social responsibilities. So for us, looking at brands is a holistic view at that. And we start very early on with our clients to understand what does that look like. So in doing an audit, and then in addition to that, what are the things that are aligned and where are the inconsistencies? And then where might we focus to be able to understand how we could align to be able to create a better business environment for them with regards to impact, but also a really happy workforce as well.
And I just want to acknowledge Saba and the team Super Union. I sit on the executive committee of the Ad Council, and you just did the rebrand for the Ad Council. So thank you for that work. Could we give a round of applause for Super Union?
Thank you.
The Ad Council is truly, the source of light and all that's good that we do in our industry. But the reason why I want to bring up brand is because when you think about the publisher of the future, I always feel like publisher is the wrong word. You guys are brands. And in this world of fake news and like all this crap that's out there, it's almost like you now see the pendulum swinging back to brands that are viewed as premium, brands that are viewed as safe, and actually brands that truly understand their audience. And Bustle is almost a house of brands. So like, how are you kind of telling that story to marketers?
I mean, for us, it's like you're hitting on the word trust, really, which is what we talk when we talk about our partners. There's so much concern about what who you trust and how you trust people you're working with, what people are doing with your data, and so forth. When partners are coming to us, it's because they trust us with their brand.
And what are your brands? Can you just share with the audience? Like what are the Bustle brands?
But we have Bustle.com, the mothership, Elite Daily. We just bought the Zoe Report in the spring. We have Romper.com, our mom's site, and we just acquired Flavor Pill, the experiential marketing agency. So, part of our whole model is to be full service.
And did you also just buy something else?
We did? What did we buy?
Gawker?
Oh, we bought Gawker. Oh, yeah, that's right. A little thing called Gawker. Yeah, it's not on my mind yet. It's coming in the first half of 2019. I'll tell you all about it then. But it's going to be big, really big, tremendous. So look out for Gawker. But when we talk about trust, and Gawker is actually a great example when you think about it. Like it will be a very watched relaunch. There are a lot of people that have opinions about what that brand should be. We're going to do amazing things with it. We will bring it back. There has not been in the history of media, in decades anyway, something that has come back from the dead like this will, with such great fanfare around it. So we're looking forward to that. But when we talk about trust, and I go back to this idea of renewals, not to harp on that. Any dipshit can sell something once. It's selling it that second, third, fourth, and fifth time that drives our business. And partners come back to us because they have a trust with what we've done and shown with their brands historically. The more data and insights that we can show proof of concept, the more we can be accountable for how we, dealt with their campaign and how it performed, how well we executed. You'd be surprised about how much business we actually win because somebody else messed up. We might not have been the best, but we hadn't messed up yet, so we won the business. That's a really big deal for us. So our whole plan around execution and marketing the best customer service in the business is far more important than saying, to a beauty client, we have the most amount of women at Bustle that will buy your lipstick tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Like everybody can say that and spin those numbers. So the other thing that comes with trust, I think that's really important, is the courage to really be honest and transparent with a partner. We've had instances with multi-million-dollar campaigns where it just wasn't going to work, and we were pushed and pushed to say yes through every stage of the execution process, knowing that it just didn't feel right, what we were being asked to create. And because we're so afraid of losing a dollar, we don't say like, hey guys, let's take a breath and like reset. When we started doing that about a year ago and actually having the courage to push back with real insights and intent, and clients really appreciate that. I think that goes a long way to say like, this doesn't feel right.
But then it's not a transactional relationship. You actually care about the
Absolutely,
business, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the thing, as much, I'm born and raised in New York, but I live out in Silicon Valley now. And, I think the disconnect between what you see in New York and San Francisco is, this is still a people-based business. This is a relationship-based business. And, as much as you have all the technology and programmatic and all that jazz, people still matter. Relationships matter.
Absolutely.
I think even more so. I think even with all the programmatic, and certainly programmatic for us is a very large percentage of our overall revenue at this point. But there's still people involved in that, quite a few people, and they're still selling to people. But more importantly, our relationship with the brands, they are now no longer just looking for a transactional relationship with a publisher. They want a partnership. They want to view you as a marketing solutions provider, and they want programs. They don't want campaigns necessarily, and they want those programs to be very well thought through, led with the insights in the beginning, but able to be measured and tracked, and for you as the publisher to bring information that they wouldn't otherwise be able to have because of the different tools that we have and the access and to the people that are going to be participating in these programs. And they do want to know that you have the capabilities of a full service operations on the client services side and the execution to actually function as a marketing solutions partner. And so I think the most fascinating trend that we've observed for our business is that while programmatic is on, and that's great, and it's a consistent revenue stream, and it's got its fluctuations on seasonality, and we can prepare for that. But the types of programs, the size of the programs, they're typically much bigger. We're seeing the average program relationship in length as well as dollars increase pretty significantly, which I think is important. You need time to develop these programs. You need time for audiences or the people that are participating in these programs to be able to come along and watch it all unfold and feel a part of something. And so I think having those opportunities to work more closely with brands on these types of programs that do have this longer term outlook, but are going to have much higher expectations in terms of the quality of what you deliver, and then the expectations on you from a services standpoint to be able to execute.
I think that's where we really differentiate ourselves as publishers versus the Facebook and Googles, because they get all the money and everybody complains about that. And I'm like, you go think you're competing with Facebook and Google, that's fine. I'm going to go take your money while you're doing that, because it's like the Little League baseball team playing the Yankees. It's just you're not going to win. But where we differentiate, Mark and I in particular, is that the relationship, the trust factor, yes, but we are able to be on the same side of the table with our clients and really ideating about how to move a campaign forward. Facebook and Google don't do that. That's super transactional,
But I think you're hitting on something which is really, powerful. This is not about platforms, right? And I think what people truly conflate is, everyone in the industry knows 60, 70, 80% of all digital ad spend could go to the walled gardens, but they are not 60, 70, 80% of the internet. And I think we have an issue in this industry where we have conflated content and distribution, right? And so if you see an article, from Forbes coming out of the Under 30 Summit, and I happen to read it in my Facebook newsfeed and I click on it, that's still going to go back to Forbes. That's Forbes content. You actually have that relationship with the audience. And this is kind of where the voice of the customer, the voice of the marketer comes in. I mean, Sabo, when you think about this, how are you truly understanding consumer behavior? When you think about this, do you view publishers as a source of insights? How are they part of your mix when you're thinking about understanding kind of human-centered design?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely a blend. I mean, given obviously now from a publisher standpoint after GDPR, they are the ones who have the keys to more information than before, unless you're going direct to consumer, right? And in both of those cases, how do you have a blend such that you're looking at both of them together? And we look.
But direct to consumer is also a publisher now.
Yeah, that
right.
That
so
is true.
it's
right. And so in both of those cases, how do you build those relationships and how do you take them in? And so the type of work that we do at the very beginning is used to inspire. So there's information and there's data that can be used to test later on. But for us, in thinking about the publishers, it's understanding what's the role that they're going to have to play and how do we build a brand with trust at the very beginning, because it's trust, it's engagement. People think about things like building something that's a minimum viable product based off of information. We think about them as more of a minimum awesome product. How do you deliver into that delight? How do you put that information?
I love that. Can we just hashtag it minimum awesome product?
It's not mine.
So I hear another product manager
It's
talk
not,
about minimum
right.
viable product. I'm just
Right.
like, guys, you guys, there's such a difference between a product-centered company or focus and a
Right.
customer-centric focus.
Right. And to that, it's the recognition that understanding an MVP is critical. And you can use information and data to get to that point, and you can test that. But the techniques that you'll be using to understand how do you take it to the next level in terms of how you're actually going to create that product is one thing. And then how are you going to take those learnings to inform how you as an organization are going to redesign your organization? So there's the whole concept and the importance of creating a product-centric company, but then how do you become a product-centric organization that is all about the process by creating that and making sure everything from customer service to how your collaboration takes place and delivering next-generation products after that, making sure it's ready for that. And so it's also a blend much more so between things like the engineering organization and the marketing organization and finance. And so these are things that are on our mind, and we're seeing these changes every day right now.
But you know something which is really interesting is like, how do you actually kind of bring all those different orgs together? And I think there's so much coverage of kind of all the walled gardens or tech companies, and that's innovation. I'd like to say that publishers are incredibly innovative. It's almost like they have to, because
Survival.
you need to survive. And I want to call out kind of Mark. I'd love to hear a little bit. I mean, one. Back in, was it like 2010, 2011, before programmatic really started to take off, you were, I think, the VP of digital at the time before you became CRO, but you were one of the first to transform a publisher to go all in on a data, center. I think you were probably at the time the most data-driven